I'm Dr. Scott Brown, board-certified chiropractic neurologist. We're going to be talking about dyslexia today, which is one of the spectrum of learning disorders that we treat with brain-based therapeutics. And what is unique about brain-based therapeutics in treatment of these learning disorders is that we don't look specifically at just where the symptom is, which is to say, in dyslexia, we're looking at language and reading problems. We're looking at spelling, writing, and speaking, and some combination of these things, such as transposition of numbers and letters and that sort of thing. And not all these kids have every one of these things. They're all different. And so we not only look at those functional things, but we look at the parts of the brain that are involved with those deficits. So for instance, in dyslexics, typically we think that there is an auditory processing problem. Now we know that there's a problem in the frontal lobes of the brain, in the temporal lobe of the brain. We know there's a problem in the basal ganglia and in the cerebellum. There's different areas of the brain that seem to be smaller or under-functioning in these special kids. And when we have that, when kids are under-functioning in some areas, they actually have better function in other areas. So these kids can be gifted athletically with visual spatial things and things like that. But in this particular area, there seems to be under-function. And in brain-based therapeutics, what we want to do is to take a good look at your child in his entirety or her entirety. We want to look at their nutritional coefficients. We want to see if they have the proper essential fatty acids. We would need to do a comprehensive organic acid profile to determine these types of things. We have you fill out forms such as a metabolic assessment form and a neurotransmitter assessment form to see if all of these things are in balance. A thorough neurological exam also is going to determine which parts of the brain that are in deficit in these kids, if there's one particular area that's more in deficit than others. 15% of the population has a learning disorder today. That's 1 in every 7 of us. And with our dyslexic kids being auditory processing being one of the symptoms, these kids typically cannot hear sounds that are more than 12.5 milliseconds apart, which is to say you and I can hear these sounds, but these kids can't hear these sounds because of an under-functioning left temporal lobe. Now, at the same time the left temporal lobe is under-functioning, usually the right cerebellum is under-functioning because the cerebellum on the right side feeds the left neocortex and vice versa on the other side of the brain. With these kids, we need to make sure that the postural muscles are working properly. And this is something that's many times left out in the evaluation and treatment of these kids, is that we need to make sure that gravitational pathways are powerfully exciting the cerebellum on the right and the neocortex on the left, and particularly the left temporal lobe. We need to make sure that the postural muscles are working because 80% of what drives brain function comes from postural muscle activity. So we look at the history. When mom was pregnant with you, we see what she ate and whether or not she was healthy. We look at the development. We look at whether or not you were crawling on time or whether you skipped the crawling stage entirely, which is not good for development. We have to look at all these things, including primitive reflexes. There are certain primitive reflexes that in these stages of development, if there is a delay, then these reflexes do not disappear when they should, and it interferes with our intellectual development. In any event, these activities involve, as we said, the cerebellum, the neocortex, and then finally there's an area in the middle part of the brain, and deep in this mid-brain section, called the basal ganglia. And there's probably 5 or 6 different specific areas that have been pinpointed to be deficient in this spectrum of learning disorders. Our goal is to find out exactly where these areas are. And we have the therapeutics, once we target those areas, to help recapture some of these deficits. Now, dyslexia is a lifetime disorder, and we have to deal with that. But these can be very gifted children, and we want to see them realize their full potential and make use of the gifts they have. But in order to do that, they do need to be able to read and write and spell. And so this is a particular passion of mine. My website is www.browncnc.com. We have a waiting list right now for you that you can get on. And if you're not in an area that is near the Lakewood, Colorado area, there's less than 1,000 of us worldwide that are board certified and deal with these specific types of approaches to brain balance. So I'll try to find someone near you. More importantly, if you do want to see me, I can take a phone conversation with you, call my team, and they will give you a time where you can talk with me. This is about work on your part and my part. It involves eye exercises, auditory, cognitive, kinesthetic exercises, balancing, and it is work. There's no magic bullet. So if this sounds like it fits for you, then please do call, and I will be happy to speak with you about you or your child. Thank you.